The glass walls of his corner office had always made Marcus Chen feel invincible, untouchable even. But on that ordinary Tuesday afternoon, watching through those same windows as his 18-month-old daughter reached tiny hands toward a homeless woman on the sidewalk below, something inside him shattered. His heart stopped. His breath caught. Because the woman kneeling before his baby, tears streaming down her weathered face, was speaking words that would unravel everything he thought he knew about loss, about sacrifice, and about the invisible angels who walk among us. Marcus had built an empire. At 39, he stood at the helm of Chen Technologies, a company worth billions with offices spanning 3 continents. He had the corner office, the penthouse apartment, the respect of Silicon Valley's elite. But none of it had prepared him for the moment 2 years ago when his wife, Jennifer, had whispered her last words to him in a hospital room that smelled of antiseptic and fading hope. Now he was both CEO and single father to little Emma, a toddler with Jennifer's bright eyes and infectious laugh. His assistant, Patricia, had taken Emma for a walk while Marcus finished a conference call with Tokyo investors. He'd glanced out the window absently, already mentally preparing for his next meeting when he saw them. Patricia was at a coffee cart half a block away. Emma sat in her stroller near a bus stop bench, and beside that bench sat a woman. Her clothes were layered and worn, her hair hidden beneath a faded knit cap despite the mild weather. A shopping cart filled with plastic bags and cardboard stood beside her, and Emma, his precious Emma, was laughing and reaching toward this stranger with the fearless trust only children possess. Marcus's first instinct was protective alarm. He pressed closer to the window, his hand already reaching for his phone to call Patricia, but something stopped him. The woman wasn't moving toward Emma. Instead, she had lowered herself carefully to the pavement, sitting cross-legged, maintaining a respectful distance. Her lips were moving. She was talking to his daughter. He couldn't hear the words, but he could see Emma's delighted response, the way her whole face lit up, the way her hands reached and grasped at air. Then he saw something that made his blood run cold. The woman's face crumpled. Her shoulders began to shake. She was crying. Marcus bolted from his office. He flew past his secretary, ignoring her startled questions, and hit the elevator button repeatedly before giving up and taking the stairs. 12 flights. His lungs burned. His heart hammered. All he could think was, get to Emma, protect Emma. He burst through the lobby doors and onto the street, his expensive shoes slapping against the concrete. Patricia saw him coming and looked confused. Emma squealed with delight at seeing her daddy, but the homeless woman remained focused on his daughter, tears now flowing freely, her lips still moving in words Marcus strained to hear as he approached. "Such a beautiful baby," the woman was saying, her voice hoarse but gentle. "Your mama would be so proud. So very proud." Marcus froze. The world seemed to tilt sideways. "What did you say?" His voice came out strangled. The woman looked up at him, and for the first time he really saw her face. Beneath the grime and the weathering of street life, beneath the hollow cheeks and the tired eyes, there was something familiar, something that pulled at memories he couldn't quite grasp. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, struggling to stand. "I didn't mean to frighten anyone. When I saw her, I recognized her mother's eyes. And I shouldn't have. How do you know about my wife?" Marcus demanded, but his voice had lost its edge. Something in this woman's face, in her voice, was triggering a memory. Hospital corridors, late nights, a kind face bringing him coffee when he'd been keeping vigil by Jennifer's bedside. The woman swallowed hard. "Mr. Chen, I used to be your wife's nurse." The words hung in the air between them like smoke. Marcus felt his knees weaken. Patricia stepped closer, instinctively protective, but he held up a hand. "Sarah?" The name came from somewhere deep in his memory. "Sarah Mitchell?" She nodded, and a fresh wave of tears spilled down her cheeks. "You remember?" Remember, how could he forget? Sarah had been Jennifer's primary nurse during those final 3 months. The one who had held Jennifer's hand during the worst nights. The one who had sat with Marcus in the family room at 3 in the morning, letting him talk about his fears, his hopes, his desperate prayers for more time. The one who had been there when Emma was born premature, when they'd thought they might lose both mother and child. Sarah had worked double shifts, had advocated fiercely for Jennifer's care, had treated his dying wife not as a patient, but as a person, a friend even. "What happened to you?" Marcus asked, his voice barely a whisper. Sarah looked away, shame coloring her features. "After your wife passed, I couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't watch people die. Couldn't fail anyone else. I started making mistakes, small ones at first. Then I made a big one." She took a shaky breath. "A medication error. The patient survived, thank God, but I lost my license, lost my job, lost my apartment, lost everything. I started drinking to forget. And then," she gestured vaguely at herself, "at the shopping cart at the bench that served as her bed. Well, you can see where that led." Marcus stood motionless, his mind reeling. This woman, this broken, homeless woman living on the street, had once been the angel who'd helped his wife die with dignity, who'd made sure Emma's first moments in the world were gentle despite the chaos of an emergency C-section, who'd sat with him and held space for his grief when he had nowhere else to turn. Emma made a sound, reaching again toward Sarah, and the woman's face softened with such pure, aching tenderness that Marcus felt something crack open in his chest. "She's perfect," Sarah whispered. "I've seen her sometimes when you walk past. I never approached, I swear. I didn't want to intrude or frighten you. But today she was so close and she smiled at me and I wanted to tell her what a wonderful mother she had, even for such a short time." Patricia shifted uncomfortably beside him, clearly uncertain about this situation. But Marcus wasn't thinking about protocol or safety concerns anymore. He was thinking about Jennifer, about the promises he'd made to her in those final days, to be kind, to see people, to remember that everyone is fighting battles we know nothing about. "Patricia," he said quietly, "please take Emma back to the office. I'll be up shortly." "Mr. Chen, I don't think—" "Please." His tone was gentle but firm. Patricia hesitated, then nodded, pushing the stroller back toward the building. Emma protested, reaching back toward the interesting lady, but Patricia distracted her with a toy. When they were alone as two people could be on a busy San Francisco sidewalk, Marcus sat down on the bench. After a moment, Sarah cautiously joined him. "I've thought about you," Marcus said. "After Jennifer died, I meant to thank you properly, to do something. But I was drowning in grief and suddenly becoming a single father, and time just slipped away." "You don't owe me anything," Sarah said quickly. "I was just doing my job." "No," Marcus corrected her gently. "You went far beyond your job. You gave my wife dignity. You gave me strength. You helped bring my daughter safely into this world." He turned to look at her fully. "And now you're living on the street." Sarah's jaw tightened. "I made my choices. I accept the consequences." "Did Jennifer ever tell you what she said to me the night before she died?" Marcus asked suddenly. Sarah shook her head. "She said, when you have the power to help someone, and you choose not to, you're part of the problem. When you have the power to help someone, and you do, you're part of the solution. Be part of the solution, Marcus, always." He stood up, reaching into his pocket for his wallet. He pulled out a business card and a $100 bill. Sarah shook her head vigorously at the money, but Marcus pressed both into her hand. "The money is for today. Food, a shower at the shelter, whatever you need. The card is for tomorrow." He met her eyes. "I can't promise anything, but I know people. People who run treatment programs, who might be able to help with license reinstatement, who could offer a second chance. If you want it, but only if you want it." Sarah stared at the card, her hands trembling. "Why would you help me? After everything I've lost, after what I did?" "Because my wife taught me that everyone deserves a second chance," Marcus said simply. "And because the woman who helped my wife die with grace and helped my daughter come into this world safely deserves better than a bench and a shopping cart." He paused. "And because Emma smiled at you." Kids see things we forget to look for. They see the person underneath. Sarah broke down completely then, sobbing into her hands. Marcus stood beside her, a hand on her shoulder, until the storm passed. When she finally looked up, there was something in her eyes that hadn't been there before, something that looked almost like hope. "I've been sober for 3 weeks," she whispered. "I've been trying. I've been going to meetings at the church. I didn't know how to climb out of this hole." "Let me throw you a rope," Marcus said. "The rest is up to you." 3 months later, Marcus sat in his office, Emma playing with blocks on the floor beside his desk when his phone rang. It was the director of the recovery program he'd connected Sarah with. "Mr. Chen, I thought you'd want to know. Sarah Mitchell completed the program. She's working as a certified nursing assistant at a hospice facility now, and she's applying for license reinstatement." "I've never seen someone fight so hard." Marcus smiled, watching his daughter stack blocks with intense concentration, the same concentration her mother used to have. "Thank you for telling me," he said. That evening, as he tucked Emma into bed, he told her about her mother, as he did every night. And for the first time, he told her about a nurse named Sarah who'd shown them both what kindness looks like, and who'd reminded him that sometimes angels fall. And when they do, we're supposed to help them remember they have wings. Emma didn't understand the words, but she smiled anyway, as if somewhere deep down, she remembered the kind lady on the bench who'd cried tears of joy at seeing Jennifer's eyes looking back at her from a baby's face. And in that moment, Marcus understood what Jennifer had been trying to tell him all along. Being part of the solution wasn't about grand gestures or huge donations. It was about seeing the person in front of you. It was about remembering that everyone has a story. It was about recognizing that sometimes the people who save us need saving too.